Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at a really compact set of ideas, entries 3351 through 3D360 from the Dynaxiom series.
And what's really unique about this deep dive is that we have the author's own commentary. It's a technical rebuttal on things like LLMs and feedback loops.
Exactly. It's like having the director's commentary track on. We can use the creator's own notes to refine our thinking in real time. It's a genuine shortcut to understanding some really complex stuff.
It is. So let's just jump right in. The entries start with this foundational requirement for all knowledge, really, context, and it's all framed through music.
All right. Entry 3351 kicks it off with a simple rule. It says, true patterns require looking at what came before them. If you don't, if your view is too limited, you get something the source calls strobing.
And strobing is, it's the perfect word for it. It's repetition without any meaning, without any significance. Think of a single frame from a movie flashing over and over.
You see the image, but you don't get a story.
Exactly. No narrative, no motion. And the musical analogy they use is fantastic. If you just hear one bar of music with one single quarter note repeated forever, that's strobing. It's static.
But then if you expand that view, even a little, to a 2/4 bar with a quarter note and 2/8 notes, then you start to get a relationship. You get a real pattern.
And the author is really pushing for this idea of totality. To get the full context, they say you should look at 4 bars before and 2 bars after, and then you repeat that whole 8-bar phrase.
So the depth of your insight really depends on the size of your context window.
It's everything. Without that wide view, your brain is just seeing flashes. So 3351 sets up the need for context, and then entry 3355 immediately takes it to the next level. It's about complexity.
This one says, melody makes rhythm a riff.
Right. A drum beat is just a pattern. A single note repeated is a pattern. But a riff needs combination. It needs at least 2 different tones playing within that pattern.
So you need both. You need the context from 3351 and the combination from 3355. You only get depth when you have simple elements in a wide frame, but also variation within that frame.
And this is where the author's own commentary from that feedback looping source just nails it. They connect it directly to large language models. The wider the AI's context window,
the more data it can hold in its working memory.
Exactly. The more data it holds, the better it can understand the small details. And this brings in the architectural analogy, which is just fascinating.
With Frank Gehry's house.
Yes. The author says, look, in music, your melodic choice, the horizontal movement, is decided by your knowledge of the vertical elements, the harmony, the chords.
Okay, so how does that map onto Frank Gehry?
Well, Gehry was designing his house based on the typology, the accepted architectural rules of his neighborhood. He didn't just look at his own little plot of land.
He was looking at the whole 8-bar phrase.
He overlaid elements from the other houses on his block, that's the vertical context, to inform his very radical design. He broke the rules, sure, but he knew them intimately first. It's not chaos, it's informed rule breaking.
That makes perfect sense. You have to understand the whole structure before you can innovate. Okay, so let's shift from that external structure to how we build knowledge internally. This starts with entry 3352.
And this one has a surprising claim. Knowledge needs an introduction. It kind of pushes back on the idea that we're all just naturally curious about everything.
It suggests we need a trigger, an external cue from our environment or, our social circle.
Yeah, exactly. The environment creates the opportunity. You might never have thought to try Indian food, but a friend takes you. You love it. And suddenly, a whole new world of interest opens up. The introduction is the spark.
So 3352 is the spark. But that spark is, well, it's pretty useless without the internal fire that's demanded by entry 3356.
And 3356 makes this incredibly strong claim. It says, the world is made by people who know things committed to memory.
That's a heavy statement. It's saying if we, as a society, know less that's actually committed to memory, the world itself is less than it could have been.
And the nuance here is so important. It's not about the quantity of data we can access. We have infinite data on the internet. It's about the quality of the commitment. There has to be a specific, compelling reason to internalize something to make it part of your own mental architecture.
Not just something you can Google.
Right. And if you put those two together, you get a real warning. If 3332 gives us endless introductions, new articles, new videos, new things to skim, but we don't have the commitment from 3356,
we risk maximum strobing.
That's it. That's the intellectual danger of our time. Maximum strobing. Tons of data flashing by, but no enduring, internalized knowledge that actually builds anything.
We become great curators of other people's information, but poor architects of our own thoughts.
Precisely. And that idea of internal architecture is a perfect bridge to the next theme. Identity and perception. This is where it gets really philosophical.
We're starting with entry 3354, which dives right into the paradox of change. Externally, you might look at someone and think, wow, they've really changed.
Or maybe they were always that way and you just didn't see it. The external view is messy. But the punchline in 33354 is about the internal view. It says, to ourselves, we've never changed.
We always feel like ourselves, like the main character in our own movie. Even if we look back 5 years and cringe at who we were, we see it as a necessary step to becoming, well, who we are now, a continuous line.
So we have this fixed vehicle, our sense of self, and that vehicle runs up against the reality described in 32358. Life is an ever-changing terrain of moods.
We're in the same car, on the same roads, but our internal filter changes. The thing that made you happy yesterday, a career goal maybe, just doesn't satisfy that hunger today. The terrain has shifted.
So the identity feels static, but the experience is kinetic. The vehicle is constant, but the terrain is always moving.
And this brings us to what feels like an outlier, entry 3353. It's the most blunt one. The religious are the most special people in the world.
Yeah, it seems to come out of nowhere. But if you think about it in the context of commitment, like in 3356, it starts to make a kind of structural sense.
So why are they special from a structural point of view?
Because a belief system provides this incredibly resilient, total, cohesive framework. It's the ultimate context, the ultimate 8-bar phrase that explains everything, and it demands immense commitment.
And the author's commentary on this backs that up. They talk about social cohesion. Religions create this overt, shared framework. But in secular settings,
the author notes, our group beliefs are often kept just below the surface. We do it to get along. It's a kind of social etiquette.
that's why we don't talk about politics or religion at dinner parties.
Exactly. It's not always about respect. Sometimes it's a defense mechanism to avoid the kind of friction that deep commitment can generate. We keep things smooth to preserve the social structure.
That desire for low-friction cohesion is a perfect lead-in to the biggest challenge to genuine thought today, the digital echo chamber. This is where the author's rebuttal gets really technical.
It starts with the warning in entry 3357. The more we use generative AI, the more AI-generated we become. And this is a mechanical problem, not a moral one.
So even if I'm just using it as a tool, my own work starts to pick up its tics, its habits.
Inevitably. It's phrasing, it's structure. And the crucial part is your output then gets fed back into the large language models for their next training cycle.
So the danger isn't that AI will steal our thoughts. It's that we'll start unknowingly quoting the AI back to ourselves, thinking it's an original idea.
Yes, it's an echo. The author uses a few metaphors here. First, AI as a mirror, but also as a kind of effects chain or a patch bay.
Okay, break down that patch bay idea.
Imagine long chains of digital output being fed right back into the inputs. With every cycle, the original human idea, that first prompt, gets so filtered and processed that the thread of originality just becomes microscopic. You can't even see it anymore.
Like making a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy.
That's a great way to put it. And this process leads to errors, what the author's rebuttal calls an hallucination error.
Right, hallucination with an A.
Yes, and it's not just a mistake. It's the AI confidently inventing facts because it doesn't have the real source, so it just connects the dots that look closest. The author cites that example of a quote about nuclear weapons being attributed to him when Elon Musk actually said it.
So the AI saw a thematic link and just jumped to a conclusion.
It saw a pattern, but it sacrificed the truth to complete it. And that tension between a synthetic pattern and a genuine thought leads us right to entry 3360.
Which defines memes as simply unquestioned conformity.
It's brutal, but it's precise. The source argues that memes are instinctual. They bypass our rational, slow, System 2 thinking and just exploit our fast emotional System 1.
And the motivation behind it all is that deep, fundamental human need to belong to a tribe. Memes are just a digital shortcut to signal that you're one of us.
Now, if we put 33357 and 3360 together, the author's commentary provides the final chilling link. AI Prose is developing its own AI dialect. But with generative audio, it's not just the words, it's the cadence, the personality of the voice.
Which adds to the truthiness of it.
Absolutely. We are wired to associate truth with the personality we like. If you like someone's voice, you're more likely to believe what they're saying, and that leads directly to the unquestioned conformity of 3360. The AI mirror is designed to be appealing so that its echo is stronger.
Wow. Which brings us to the final entry, 3359. And this feels like the philosophical curtain call for the whole sequence. It's unthinkable that you could think of all the unthinkable things, but people have in fact thought of them.
And notice the date on that entry, 1/2025. This is a statement about the constant expansion of what's possible for us. The boundary of the unthinkable is always moving.
We can't foresee our own breakthroughs. Our own creativity is our ultimate blind spot.
It is. We're always carrying it with us.
So let's try to tie this all together for you. We started with the context, with 3351 and 3355. To get any real depth, you have to look at the whole 8-bar pattern.
And that need for a total view applied to ourselves, too. We have this constant self from 3D354, but it's traveling across a shifting terrain of moods from 3D358. And to build a world, knowledge needs that external spark, the introduction from 3352.
And the internal fire, a commitment to memory from 3D356. But that commitment is under attack from our digital world. The AI mirror in 3D357 is diluting originality, and the tribal pull of memes in 3360 is pushing us toward conformity.
So we risk becoming, just really good echo chambers instead of being original architects of thought. And to be an architect requires that deep commitment and a constant awareness of the edges of your context window.